Evening, I'm Zach Moore, and this is Chad Wilson. We're with the Emerald Party, and thank you for coming to our second live stream. Technology is always a journey, isn't it, Chad? um,
Always, always.
we got a few things for you. We want to have a few conversations, and this one might be a little shorter than normal, but first, let's take a look at what we have here. What have we got, Chad?
This is the Declaration of Sovereignty, and this is a set of kind of guidelines or a basis in which we've formed the party around some ideas and uh, anchors for the political strategy and uh,
So, where we're coming from, in other words, this is kind
right,
of a summary to get conversations going
and
because
what we want to happen.
yeah, where we'd like to go. Okay, let's take a look. You hear anything? Chad, you there? I wasn't hearing the sound. Did that play for you?
I didn't check back. I guess we probably should. Let me hide that for a second. Let's see what we got here. We can look back. Um,
Well, one thing that we want to do with the Emerald Party while Chad's checking on that is uh, build affiliates and make a grassroots organization. It's not easy to do. We have to raise money, go into the face of other um, the two major parties and their fundraising apparatus and control over a lot of the electoral process. So, one of the things that we've been really inspired by also over the last couple weeks is the Doge reports that have been coming out on doge.gov. Um, and if any of you have seen any of those things or heard any of the conversations revolving around them, they essentially suggests that our government is being looted and a lot of our taxpayer dollars are being spent in a way that nobody really is in favor of, and it doesn't make for any productivity. It doesn't make for any getting anything done per se. It's kind of managerial loops, or perhaps like in the USAID's case, providing shell companies or ways to launder money or achieve other missions abroad by the CIA, or at least the CIA type agenda of regime change. So anti-democratic in terms of whether or not the people in a country can determine their own future, or whether or not our tax dollars are kind of a heavy hand pushing in a particular direction. Um, so we decided to Chad and I were talking, and we decided to read the Doge reports and sing them because we might find that, because some of them are so out there that, why not sing it? Why not match the bombast of these reports? And he said, well, why not why not use have a song and use AI to make it? And we did, and it turned out considerably different from what I was expecting. What did you think, Chad? I think your mic's still muted. There you go.
I think it's pretty funny. The whole thing about the Doge that I really wanted to have the conversation about was the the policy or the idea versus the actual people that are running it. When people have their concerns or checks and balances that they're worried about, um, those are valid concerns or valid criticisms. So
Mhm.
there's an interesting conversation to be had here about, okay, what do we want? We could still say, okay, well, we don't have to trust A, B, and C in that captain's chair, but we could say, hey, the principle, the purpose is correct, and where's the line, and how do we actually have transparency? How do we cut the fat in the systems, which is
Well,
what everybody's
I
been
thought,
wanting.
yeah, the word grift keeps coming back up. For example, Jimmy Dore and Mark Levin, who are on different parts of the spectrum, and we're probably closest aligned to the way Jimmy Dore approaches politics as an independent. We're former Greens, people who liked Bernie's populist work and anti-corporate work, but feel betrayed and see the working class absolutely ignored in some cases, and the Democratic Party no longer serves them. There, but so both Jimmy Dore and Mark Levin, who's a conservative commentator on a legal basis, talks about the law a lot. Jimmy Dore's a um, comedian who has wide reach in terms of talking on social issues like the Iraq War. Both are using the word grift. That bureaucrats are outright stealing taxpayer dollars, that they're not even the crazy things that they're putting the down for, saying that this is what it's being used for. That's just a joke, that's just a cover.
It's just
And I find
a
that,
slush fund.
yeah. So when we got both sides of the spectrum agreeing, that doesn't happen very often, but I think we're coming to a point in politics where that kind of is a apex point where things are changing.
And even though people do agree on the concept, the principle, the establishment, the mainstream would have you think that it's more of uh, a conflict between left and right per se, whatnot. Um,
Like Elon, for example, also, like you were going to bring it back to one of our values is to focus on the policy. Is this good for America versus, uh, are you just upset about the people that are marshaling this agenda? Trump, for example, is a enormous lightning rod, and he is intentionally so sometimes. And now it's Elon Musk, and for example, now it's RFK that he has gone into this camp because he can't. The Democrats kicked him out. I mean, They said that you've got no place for here. You can't even campaign. What can we bring up that meme that says, "Imagine being so brainwashed"? That's we got a picture of the Twilight Zone, the black and white one. Um,
Um,
that there's got to be a difference, and from our perspective, it's the important part is the policy good for the American people? It is not about do you like the horse that someone rode in on, don't kill the messengers kind of thing. So, for example, Doge, for those who aren't familiar, uh, has been created through executive order, and they repurposed an organization, a digital efficiency organization created under the Obama administration. And nobody lost their minds then. And it's the same authority, and the authority is that of the White House to make sure that fraudulent behavior isn't occurring with taxpayer dollar. Under Article 2, there's a CARES clause of the Constitution that says that the president, the executive, should uh, pay attention to these things and is responsible for these things. That money's not being stolen. This isn't a new issue. I'm sure the larger government has gotten, the more amplified this has become. After the Civil War, it was widely known that there was fraud and corruption throughout the federal government and state governments, and there's a good deal of disarray and no accountability. So this isn't the first time we've been here, but it's an essential question that payers always ask. How are I work hard to make take money, and then I pay it to the government for the good of America. How is it being used? And it's a completely fair question. And if you're outraged by it because someone raised their administration, put it first as a priority, we don't agree. I mean, we think that that's probably the wrong approach. There can be flaws in it. People have said, for example, Elon stealing it. You'll hear that a lot. Um, have you seen any evidence, Chad, that Elon's stealing data, or if people don't like he's a billionaire? I hear that a lot. You were mentioning that the other day. Billionaire, billionaire, billionaire. Okay.
well, I mean,
Ballpark.
here's the thing. My concern, I mean, I do have my reservations about anybody that's in charge or in control of these things. Um, and it's not like Elon hasn't had contracts with the U.S. government anyways
He's a
already.
military contractor, right?
Military. So it's like he's already getting money from the system. So to me, I'm more concerned about really understanding the mechanics of how it works and how these loyalties and stuff
Hmm.
happens and how it is behind kind of a closed door, the system. Um, but my thing is the public sentiment is if we're on the same page, then it can be powerful. But what the establishment has to do has to sheepdog that and kind of shred it to bits and make sure that people don't get on the same page.
Well, who do
And
you mean by the establishment? What are you
well,
thinking of there?
when I say
Name
by the
names.
okay, I mean when you talk about name names,
Well, for example, corporate media comes to mind, and
or
in this
corporate,
case,
corporate media.
the bureaucracy, right? The people who are not elected, and they're saying that about Elon. He's not elected. So how does he have this power? But the power is actually that of the president. But
Well, my thing is keeping the dog and pony show going. You have to have this whole fake facade of things happening. That's kind of how
you
I'm
think it's fake?
I think the whole I mean I think the whole thing's fake. That as far as the illusion of how everything's run, because behind closed doors, these people are friends. It's like the WWE.
Uh,
It's it's set up for them to be a good guy and bad guy, and they know at the end of the day that when they go, their reputation's in place as long as they play ball.
well,
Because they're the ones who write the history books after.
indeed, that's true.
Uh,
So, is there a way we can pull up that meme?
that's
Imagine
what
being or I guess I could read it, but it'd be good if people could see it.
I'm trying
Um,
to pull it up right now.
It says, imagine being so brainwashed that instead of being happy about the elimination of truly wasteful spending, you attack the person who uncovers it. Um, so to shoot the messenger, and then therefore what they're uncovering is not legitimate in any way, shape, or form. Uh, it's almost like an attitude like life is like being in court. It isn't. There aren't rules of evidence. If it's true, it's true. And if the evidence fell off the truck, we still ought to know about it. um, and you find it. So there's if you in courts, if you find something and it wasn't a legal way of finding out, then it doesn't count. It's as if reality hasn't been created. But that's not the way taxpayers view it. If we find out, we find out. If someone makes a mistake and we find out that this is massive, massive fraud, then I think that's relevant. I think people should pay attention to it. They treat it like it is. I don't remember anything like this happening before in my lifetime. Had
No,
you?
no. Again, I'm good with the idea, the concept. I'm worried about the Bernie Sanders effect, right? So I liked everything that was going on with Bernie Sanders. I liked the principle. I liked how everybody were together. I liked the camaraderie. This is 2016 Bernie. This is the birdie, where that bird landed on the podium, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. There was a
Destiny of the people's movement.
there
Yeah.
was a sense of camaraderie and community that was going on as people were finding out about Bernie. But the
Mhm.
point is, though, is it didn't matter, because at the end of the day, they squashed it all into to Bernie, and then Bernie bent the knee, and then when they split it up,
Well, he
it
ran
made
in the Democratic Party too, right?
well, yeah,
If he had run in the Green Party, maybe that wouldn't have
it
happened.
would have been different. Yeah, so there's just a lot of things that I'm worried about, and that's why I
Well,
don't
can
get
we?
too excited about the person. I don't know if you
Oh
can.
yeah, okay. So to bring it back to is let's not focus too much on the person. Let's
Sure.
focus on what's good for America. And that was Bernie's message was what was good for America. He was on. It was not I don't think all those people were delusional,
No,
except for the fact that this is being he thought he was going to be able to defeat corruption within the Democratic Party. If you want, most people
and
would say it that way.
I don't even believe he did now. Now I think he knew all along that it didn't matter. At the end of the day, this was what was going to happen. I think he probably lied to himself, like, how can they deny me? How could they deny me now? You know,
Oh,
but
I am asking you one more time,
for
Marshall,
$27.
to fund to fund those boys over at the Emerald Party. Let's take a look at that meme.
Let me look. You look at it again.
Yeah, this is way too fast. We got to read it. What does it say? Okay, make it bigger a little bit. I don't know. Imagine being so brainwashed that instead of being happy about the elimination of truly wasteful spending, you attack the person who uncovers it.
Who uncovers it?
Yeah. What's how's our video? Let's or maybe we could take a look at our Doge video that we put together and the report that it initially came out of from Doge.gov.
All right. Yes, let's do that. Is
I
that
gotta
the
say,
one
while
we?
while you're bringing that up, a lot of people who are critical, and I would say on the probably the Democratic Party side and bureaucratic side, I've heard this from people who work within the government. Um, they've raised these concerns about the Treasury Department and Social Security, and that you're giving access to this data. These people, the Doge folks have security clearances. They work for the White House. I don't know how you can work for the White House without a top secret clearance. So this is it's a bunch of nonsense to say that this is a
I
security
mean,
risk.
who do we trust? Like, we don't trust anybody. But the whole point is, like, let's see some sort of movement. Let's get some
Hey,
sort of
Trump was elected with an enormous mandate. I don't think anybody can argue with that.
which was
And so,
which is the
So
whole thing, is the populist message, right? That was, again, my concern is all they have to do is put somebody unfavorable to one side or not that's pushing the populist message, and then they just go back to sleep. And that, which is what the liberal class pretty much is doing when it comes to the ju- you could argue, okay, well, here's the checks and balances to make sure that we watch the watchers, right? But
well, that's the idea.
the
It's got audited.
concept of auditing and getting rid of wasteful spending and unneeded spending should not even be a
Controversial
at
issue.
all,
It should be
at all.
fully applauded. Well, yeah, okay. And you bring up an interesting point. We get asked, why are you starting a new party? And that's exactly why you would want to start a new party. You use the phrase watch the watchers. If there's a kind of notion that invest what's that OIG reports, investigative, you know, offices that do reports on how things happened within an agency. The FBI had one during RussiaGate, and they published things. But there's a notion that OIG reports are where scandals go to die, where you bury it in bureaucracy and footnotes. And so for the first time, what I remember, they are being transparent in terms of publishing X, Y, and Z of what's happening, and you can go challenge that. In fact, some people in the public have caught an error where instead of billion, it was million, which is a pretty, I
Pretty
don't know,
big.
it's typographical error. It's one letter, but still, that is a relevant thing to say. It's if we're gonna be in the context of this is our money, what are you doing with it? So for example, one thing that Doge said was that one of their posts was in 2020 to 2021, the Small Business uh, Administration, remember we were in COVID, issued 3,095 loans. So they're not estimating, they're very precise here, including PPP, Paycheck Protection Program, and EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. This is below the Department of Government, by the Doge clock graphic on our sheet here, for 333 million to borrowers. Wait for it, over 115 years of age, who were still marked as alive in the Social Security database. Well, and in one case, a 157-year-old individual received $36,000 in loans. You might not say, okay, in the context of our budget, which is trillions, I think over $7 trillion for the federal government, 333 million is not a big deal, but that's real money for school districts, for fixing things that need fixing. And we've had natural disaster after natural disaster,
Which
and
which
nobody's
is
gotten
which
help.
is the other side of it too, is like, it's not just, okay, well, let's cut out the wasteful spending. Let's say, okay, well, if we're willing to wasteful spend, let's at least spend it on something that it is making the country better, is fixing the infrastructure, is putting into school districts, is doing all these things that need to happen. Um,
Well, so the Social Security, there's been fear mongering that now they're going to use this to give billionaires tax breaks because these are a bunch of billionaires doing it. Fair enough, but that's a concern. That's a starting point. That's not a ooh gotcha. At the end of the story, this is bad, because where's your evidence that this has happened?
well, the
You know,
point is if you're worried about the tax breaks, but you're not even concerned about where the tax money's going, why
yeah,
does
it's
why
two
does
different things.
why does it matter? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
So do
it's
you
an
have
empty concern. Which one?
so do you have the big graphic here that with the Social Security um, age brackets? Oh, there's another one too. Also, SSA confirms over 7.5 billion in retroactive Social Security payments. Beneficiaries are set to receive higher benefits starting in April. In other words, they're trying to not tax Social Security, which is an insurance policy. That makes sense. I don't know how that wasn't legal. How taxing it was legal in the first place, as an insurance, it's a return of premium on an insurance policy from the 30s. But they just said that there's 7.5 billion more dollars is to give Social Security recipients a raise. It doesn't sound like they're killing it, which is the fear that's out there. Yeah. So what are we looking at here? This is the age brackets of people in Social Security. So that would mean these age buckets they found didn't exist. And we might be talking about a lot of money here repeated every year. There are a lot of vampires collecting Social Security. Does that mean, I would ask, does that mean there are 38 million from people with Social Security numbers between 0 and 9? Or does that mean that there were payouts for 38 million people? If you scroll down at the
He's saying that
bottom,
the death field is. He's saying that the death field is set to false. So these.
scroll
I
down,
mean, I
scroll
guess it
down.
would have.
Okay, so we're getting past the Social Security age here. And let's suppose the average maximally 110, I think, is what insurance companies are using now as expected maximum lifespan. So 120, whoa, that's good. 120 to 129. There's 3.4 million people that are getting payouts, and that's that's not something that I want just one set of eyes on. I want a lot of set of eyes on that. I want congressional hearings on this.
Here's the thing: this is millions and millions of people, millions of people.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about every year. So you're talking about all this money, and this is again, this is money that does not have to be watched. You don't need some sort of congressional approval. You don't have to have it in the budget in order to be using this money for nefarious things.
Oh, right.
So that
yeah.
this is
so
how
it's
the
already
black
stamped
market.
as legit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And how is it that
So
this is the first time that this is being reported? How is it that these guys, inspector generals are not? I hope they're being fired too. And then people, the howls and screams go up about that, oh, they fired the inspector general. This must be some nefarious operation, to use your word. I don't think so. If we want answers to this and trillions of dollars, we're, what is it, $36 trillion in debt. And every is it a quarter that we have to pay over $1 trillion in interest alone? So that quickly becomes unsustainable. I don't know where above 40 trillion, which is right around the corner, we won't be able to dig out. And of course, that means that our present productivity, we need to have more tax revenue, obviously, through productivity. And so increasing the tax rate is not necessarily the way to go. That will slow productivity, but decreasing the tax rate could boom productivity and tax revenues. And
well, then you're gonna have more money to spend. People aren't going to be.
to pay it down and tax less. I mean, that I don't know why this is that. Since when did Democrats be full on in the tank that the only way you can do it is to give it? We have to give you our money, and you can't talk about how we spend it, including wars. Well, let's watch a video. What do you say? Our little creation here.
The Doge song.
And then after that, we could look at what it's based upon. The link on what it was based upon. It's up top there.
All right.
Now, for me, one of the biggest things was USAID getting liquidated, and we can come back to that.
Let's make it full screen. I don't know if you can hear it on the stream.
Department of Government Efficiency, DC, there's an agency that's spending with a budget 60 mil, handing out foreign grants like they're going for the kill. The Inter-American Foundation have cut down to one, just a single employee, and their spending spree is done. Doge, watch them waste away your hard-earned dollars flying where nobody's looking anyway. Doge, getting things in check, stopping all that money from becoming a financial wreck. $900,000 for alpaca farms in Peru. They've raised them there for centuries. What were they thinking to do? 364 grand for recyclers in Bolivia, and 800,000 more for gardens in the jungle. Can you believe ya? 323,000 to understand Venezuela, and 731 grand for mushrooms and for peas lifelines in Guatemala, no less, where nobody's looking. 677,000 for fruit and jam. What a sin! Artisanal salt in Ecuador, almost 500,000 gone. 39,000 for beekeeping while our own bees struggle on. Your money, my money, gone without a trace. Down the drain overseas at an alarming pace. Don't, what an end to this! Your tax dollars disappearing in a foreign money abyss. Doge, getting things in line. How dare they waste our money? Now it's recovery time, yes sir.
So at the end of that, we put the actually, could you bring that back up and we'll put the end of it. There's a slide of the what we were referring to and what we were looking at um, right after this. Just down a little bit. If you just play it, it'll come up in about a second or two. There it is. Okay. Yeah, let's take a look at that. I'll pause it. Yeah, so this isn't a big program. $60 million in the context is not a big program. And it likely was liquidated. They took the employee running this foundation for Latin American commerce, it looks like, down to one employee. And there is a case for economic development, but when our country isn't doing this in our country, developing certain economic sectors, and the framing of some of these issues are ridiculous. Um, Alpaca farming in Peru, how almost $1 million. Do they really need help with that? I know $1 million to help small businesses in the United States would produce growth. It's not that there's only isn't a justification for giving money to help a country develop their economy, but the framing of these makes it sound like some of these are actually fraudulent or just waste money if you wanted to do that.
Just
Col-
a cutout for unchecked funds. Basically, do what you want with them.
which
You know,
is
it's
right up
used.
the intelligence agency's alley, right?
Well, I mean, think about
USAID.
it. Every single TV show, every single movie, for the most part, when it comes to the intelligence, there's always an extra bag of money or something to give somebody who plays ball. So it's like, so there's like this, and I only say that is because a lot of what they put in these TV and films are real stuff. It just things are changed or whatnot. So they condition us with what's going on, and then they try to uh,
And they fund
poison.
those projects too directly.
Oh yeah.
There's intelligence funding for those, defense funding for those.
Oh, you
They're
can't
not
show the
they don't
Pentagon
hide
in a
that.
movie.
Yeah.
They
So
changed the movie script for certain things. Anyways, I only bring that up just to draw the parallel to
well,
that.
it's in the what I was trying to say is that if this was the only thing that came out, I don't think you would have quite the public outrage. You would have scrutiny, but USAID, which is what we could look at next after we're done with this, the red slide. Let's read a couple. I'll read the second one. 364,000 to reduce social discrimination of recyclers in Bolivia. How much are we sticking our head up the butts of the citizens of another country that we have to determine that with our money that you know their relationships with social relationships with recyclers is not the way it should. Vegetable gardens in El Salvador. Are we really actually teaching people of El Salvador how to farm? vegetables. Are you serious about that? You know, um, and then the next one is to promote cultural understanding of Venezuelan migrants in Brazil, not with the United States, but we want to help the Brazilian people understand Venezuelan migrants that come to Brazil. I mean, this
Or
smacks of a cutout. You're right.
or we want to know exactly what the sentiment is and how do we foster in confrontation and conflict by using these migrants from
Could be.
Venezuela
The
to overturn Brazil or to create
U.S.
conflict
That's like,
pressure.
but you overtone Brazil is exactly right. USAID money was used through the AFL-CIO to influence Lula being in jail, and then also his election. So people, we have our hands. The American public is starting to get and see that millions of they now have a price tag going on, millions of dollars, billions and hundreds of billions of dollars being abused for agendas that they don't share and agendas that are none of our business, that we would not want someone in our country uh, messing around with our electoral systems, messing around with our candidates, messing around with our culture to this degree. Why are we expanding fruit and jam sales in Honduras for $677,000? Artisanal salt production in Ecuador. That's maybe the only one that I can think of that some kind of political economic relationship where it's being sold in the United States. But there's nothing in here that's even saying that they're doing that this has any relationship to our country. Beekeeping in Brazil, great. I'd actually be great. That's fantastic. Let's maintain the bees, especially with the Amazon. But do we see that in parallel in our country? Is there a parallel track that we're going to spend 40,000 to help the Brazilians, but we're not going to help we're going to have policies that destroy our bees with farms and pesticides in our own in the United States. Let's take a look at the USAID, that red one, because that it's so massive, and USAID was dissolved, liquidated, has a relationship with the State Department and CIA. Um, Oh yes. Donate $5, piss off the Uniparty, give $5 to us, and help us set up affiliates in your state.
I'm trying to find that other screen. You said there was a red one?
Yeah, there's a red
Oh,
one.
the debt. The debt.
USAID fraud, waste, and abuse. It was like three to the right of that from the Treasury one. Here's a headline: USAID paid Hollywood state actors to travel to Ukraine to get pictures with Zelensky. And some of these are in all of them are in the millions. I'm trying to get that out of your way here.
I can't even look at it.
USAID,
Orlando Bloom, $8 million. Sean Penn, $5 million. John Claude Van Damme, $1.5 million. Ben Stiller, $4 million. This is U.S. taxpayer money for them to go over, do a photo op, and promote Zelensky in Ukraine in a hot war. Angelina Jolie, $20 million. If you're in a war, what is this doing? It's gross. All of that money. These people. First of all, these people, if this was something that was beneficial to the United States and they were patriotic, they would do it with. They don't. What do you have to pay these people for? Yeah, and then just the examples, and this goes on and on and on. You see the red one. I'll read some of them while you're getting that up. 40 million, 5 million for DEI scholarships in Burma. What? It's $47,000 for trans opera in Colombia. So I kind of feel like, so we're going to export this to places that really don't want it. $32,000 for a trans comic book in Peru. So I feel like, wow, that's for 0.01% of the population. That's quite a lot of money you're slinging around to represent over 300 million people. 16 million in funding for institutional contractors and gender development offices. That's pretty unspecified. Yeah, I was really shocked by the amount of money, hundreds of millions of dollars going to Canadian universities, um, which are fantastic universities, and I wonder why. You know, why isn't that money going to American
No,
scholarships? Oh, here we go. Here we go.
it's
Yeah,
hard to it's hard to look at this.
hard to read.
Yeah.
Should I? Oh, you're screen sharing that. Um,
Yeah, because I don't
two
have
million dollars promoting tourism to Lebanon. I don't know. Well, what do we get out of that?
20
What do
million
we
for the
really get?
Sesame Street in Iraq for the Iraq one. 20
Yeah.
million.
Okay.
It's
Here we
like,
go.
did you know the original Power Rangers? When they made the show, all they did was just do the parts where they don't have their outfits on. They used the same
Yeah, Jim
action
Henson and
footage
Frank Oz are rolling in their graves.
that was already done.
Um, s-
So it's
s-
just some of this
hey,
stuff is ridiculous. They
they
could have just
sent
subtitled.
Ukrainians to Paris Fashion Week. Like, someone make it make sense. Sending Ukrainians to Paris Fashion Week. That is, I can't,
Well,
I can't figure out a reason for that. I
well, I
really
mean,
can't. And I'm sure those are elites from Ukraine, right?
to go mingle and be personal amongst the wealthy and the fashion industry, that kind of thing.
Can we play the Democrats sure want that USAID AID money? The link.
Is it,
It
oh, you're talking about the Elon one?
Yeah. Well, it says Democrats sure want that USAID money. It's in between two Elons. I mean, I can summarize what Elon went on Joe Rogan, and he was asked that, it seems like people would assume that a non-governmental organization that receive most of this money are doing good work. And he said, yeah, that's the assumption, but they're not. One question is whether they're doing anything legit with it. I'm sure there are some that are doing something good.
You said they want USAID money, that one?
Yeah, Democrats sure want that USAID money. That's a link
Something.
to a little video that's going around that I can't get enough of it when I'm watching it. And so there's this outrage, and the question here is whether or not tax dollars are being spent in a moral way. Nancy Pelosi's vineyard received 14 million from USAID for, quote, experimental farming. Now it just so happens that she received a government grant, right? In case you were wondering, that's why she's so opposed to congressional audits. I agree. Here we go. And this has sound on it. This is the best. It loops. So
No.
that's supposed to be USAID.
No.
There we go. Yeah. This is the Democrats.
No.
Nope.
No.
All right. So I think this is the end of the Democratic Party. They have their nose in the snout, and we're not saying that Republicans aren't doing it too, because I'm sure they are. But it seems overwhelming that the apparatus, the infrastructure is Democratic.
A different level.
These are guys are pros.
There's just something else that's going on.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's never. Maybe one day we'll learn that seems like at some point the Democratic Party got taken over by the intelligence agencies. A lot of people say that's always been the case, and there's these two parties, and it's Coke versus Pepsi. Fine, and the corporations own them both, but then the intelligence agencies and corporations are pretty tied in together. Why is it that the Democratic Party became through Obama and Hillary became the apparatus, the public outreach apparatus, to repeat intelligence talking points? I was stunned by liberal friends, since when do radicals and liberals on the left cheer on the CIA? Since when do we repeat intelligence talking points? So, what you got,
Well,
Chad? What you got? Anything to show us?
Trump derangement syndrome is pretty intense. Is pretty wild, and I could say that from a recovering
Recovering
TDSer.
TDS.
Yeah.
Well,
No, but it's so bad that it's clear to me that they're using the TDS as a way to push people away from certain ideas and certain concept. All Trump has to do is say, kitties are cute and the sky is beautiful outside, and then you've got, liberals trying to burn every kitten in town.
And we are, just for the record, we are not for burning kittens. We think
Right,
kittens are
right,
cute. In
right.
fact, this whole broadcast is all about kittens.
It's all about kittens.
But when you're finding, the meme goes, when you're finding fraud and someone yells stop, that's who's doing the fraud. And it seems to be true. These people, you could, to a fault, you can look at all of them. And how did these people get so rich? How did they become, get
And why
so
didn't
wealthy?
anybody say anything? Why didn't anybody say anything before now? It's like,
are they alive? Are
they
those
did.
people alive?
They were cloned.
No, they cloned. Doge says children. Can we put this one up here? This one people need to, the Doge says children aged 11 and under were granted 312 million in loans during the coronavirus pandemic. I think they got to keep going. I think they got to go back retroactively and look at all the spending from previous years, not just this. This is stuff that's going on now, like recently, a lot of this. What about the housing money from 2008 that Obama never released to people, to homeowners that have been screwed? Outside of legal action, the government had Congress that authorized it, and I don't think he ever did anything with it. He was just sitting on it. He had money for banks. The Fed bailed out the banks. They were liquid, and every one of them, I believe, functionally was, in my opinion, was bankrupt. From everyone that I saw analyze those big banks, they even allowed investment banks to become, quote, banks, like Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs. What a joke. I mean, so they're going to use children. Josh says children aged 11. So obviously that's fraud, right? That's obviously fraud.
I'm just upset that my kid ain't 11 yet.
Yeah, what did we do wrong?
You gotta
here?
wait till they're 11. Like, how did people figure this shit out? I don't know.
What about the end of the Democratic Party slide, or the one next to it, Glenn Greenwald? We got to put this one up. When Trump, you were talking about how they wanted to burn kitties. And either one you can do. Let's do both of those. End of the Democratic Party, and then also the Glenn Greenwald one right next to him. So Trump gives a speech. It has wildly popular approval numbers, and Democrats decide to sit and not applaud for some of these heartstring stories, which everyone does. Let's put it this way. Like going back to Bill Clinton, everyone does these sorts of things. Here's a firefighter. But for them to not applaud people with cancer, kid, come on, and having this fraud, the president pointing to them saying that they're child traffickers. This is full on contact sports, man. This is like blood sport between the president and these Democrats. And I don't see them winning. I don't see the Democrats winning, pulling it out.
No, it just, I don't know. To me, it's like you can't see that's how bad you are. Like, it's like you're purposely gaslighting that you're this terrible, that you've got to be derailing, deconstructing, demolition in your party on purpose. You've got to be. To me, that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Oh, I thought the demolition of the country was on purpose. I mean, how do you empty the treasury, let a bunch of people come into the country so that you destroy the labor market? You've got all kinds of human trafficking going on. You're letting people out of prisons. I go back to COVID, letting people out of prisons and mentally ill. What? How is that? Wouldn't you be safer in your cell? Like, what?
While not letting you say goodbye to your loved ones. Making them die alone.
access granting, depriving their rights and patients'
Oh,
rights.
that shit's
And the hospitals having standard of care dictation and payment systems coming from, was that FDA that created these payment codes? What does it say? I'll give you a chance to read it. You want to read one?
Glenn Greenwald said when Reagan was president, liberals universally said he was a fascist monster and a maniacal warmonger. They also believed the CIA was sinister. Now they attack Trump by saying he doesn't copy Reagan, and they send out their CIA operatives to say it. But yes, why have I changed? Says Slatkin, as a Cold War kid, I'm thankful it was Reagan and not Trump in the office in the 1980s.
She's a former CIA officer, and excuse me, but once a CIA, always a CIA. So that's how concerned they are. They send up their douchebag CIA person to talk for the whole party. That's it. It's their bare bones now.
Yeah,
It's like, you guys, you front folks can't do the job here. Let us take over. No one will. The CIA's never done anything that blew up in their faces.
What you've noticed, and to go back to the propaganda and stuff like that, is there has been a lot more law enforcement, a lot more intelligence, CIA and FBI TV shows and movies. It seems like they've had to go really hard on cleaning up the image.
Give it up for the CIA.
It's just wild to see how bad some of the propaganda has.
Oh, it's gross.
become.
It's gross, and like you say, the gaslighting is the key word. That that the CIA are the good guys, and we know from USAID.
Well, let me say this: the CIA guys assigned to us, they are good guys.
We'll buy you
they are good guys.
Just take it easy.
Patriots.
Don't do no crazy stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, we're patriots, right? But that's the problem, Pat.
Like
they're not patriots, Chad.
We're like the Snowdens. We like our Snowden CIA guys or John Kiriakou.
That's not who's running that place.
No, I'm not saying it is, but what I'm saying
I think
is
they're liquidating all of it. I thought Ratcliffe was like, get your stuff on your desks.
What I'm trying to point out is that you have to believe that there are people that have good intent. I mean, intentions, maybe that's not the best word. Intentions don't really matter, but people that are disturbed by the behavior and the way that the agency has been running.
They've been known to recruit the wackos. Let's put it that way.
I understand. I'm not
going that there's no. So part of it is the system. It's not the people, because you can change the people, and the system makes those people into what they are, and so there is no accountability for that institution. And Senator Moynihan, before he passed away, he's a Democratic senator in New York. A friend of mine worked with him. He worked with his family, and he used to say that the CIA, if it's intelligence and it's military, put it in the DoD. If it's diplomatic, put it in state. Done. And the CIA has offices in every consulate, anyway. So this isn't like a new working relationship. Just make them work for state, and don't let and just take the floor down upstairs, and that is the same thing. These people all work in the same defense, intelligence, and state and diplomacy all have the same office building, okay, and they do the same job in all our embassies. So why are we giving these people untold millions and letting them to set up fronts and operational things that destroy democracy? I still go back to Iran. If we're speculating a little bit here, we've overthrown that government once and got horrible results, including the Iranian Revolution. But who said that the CIA ever left Iran? Who actually controls Iran? Because of these money flows.
The idea is not to go and change something and let it do its due. It's like there's a purpose and an intention of how they want it to be ran, right?
Yeah, and it's not the Iranian people.
If they don't like it, they'll do the same thing they did. They'll install, or they'll have their regime change
They're doing it they've done it in Brazil recently.
all the time.
We can't, we can't. We can't do this anymore. We have to take accountability for it. It's coming with our money in our name. And there's no reason to go into World War III with the Cold War lies. There's no reason to be going into to be playing these kinds of brinkmanship games with nuclear weapons either in Ukraine with NATO. So I always agree that Trump is a wrecking ball. We can't predict how this man works. Um, and for example, with trade, one of the first things he did was remove um, our participation in the World Trade Organization and NAFTA. And I don't know how many times we protested that, that globalization and so-called free trade was just corporate domination. And in a snap of a finger, in a matter of weeks, he got rid of it, and it's like, boom, biggest win for the left ever. That's not how it played out.
Right.
That's not how they
Well,
took it. So if it's good for the American people, it's good. If the policy is right, it's good. If it's not, we can take it one by one,
that's the rub is people don't recognize what is good and what's not good. We tend to get led down the emotional path. They dangle our hearts and emotions and feelings and all sorts of things in front of us, which you're automatically and naturally going to have those inclinations to feel towards people. And that's just what they do it. And they're just really good at radicalizing people and in whatever direction that they want.
You just
I
use that
mean,
word, like radical used to mean something on the left. It was extreme egalitarian, but it was not necessarily socialist. It could have been, it wasn't necessarily
well,
like
anything,
Maoist. The people,
everybody can
the
be.
left are Maoists now, like, cultural Marxist idiots. It's like, what?
Well,
I don't recognize these people anymore. There's not a no fighting for human rights, stopping the war, not allowing domination of trade that makes sweatshops. All of those things were radical causes. But now the word radical, I mean, you talk about Antifa, these people are anti-fascist fascists. And by the way, where did Antifa or Black Lives Matter go now that the money's gone? Ooh.
well, now that you got caught with the
They're
the houses and all these different things. I mean,
by large mansions, man, by large mansions. But
it's
it was AstroTurf. There were people that were being brought into it, but that's the gaslight, is when these campaigns are AstroTurf.
well, and again, so the big point here, to tie it together there, is that what people are feeling is real, and
Yep.
they come aboard because they really feel like they're doing something, that this is a way to help, this is a vehicle. Like they take these ideas are bought and sold, and that's how they dangle it in front of you and then sheepdog you into whichever direction they want. And they learn how to manipulate and upset the apple cart, and then they'll disperse the movement because they've put in wedges here and there, whatnot. But I just wanted to bring that back in to the forefront, is because that's where we're at. Is a lot of people are making decisions and off the emotion that's being played. Your emotions are being played like a fiddle, like an instrument by the establishment. That's the whole game. And it's not to say that hey, sometimes caring about somebody is stopping the reason why they're being hurt versus just putting the band-aid, because it's if you're just continuously pumping out hurting people and just putting on band-aids, that's all you're ever going to get, versus stopping the machine that continues to hurt.
roll, because they can
Um,
they can replace people. I learned the difference
yeah,
between revolution and revolt. Revolt is when you change people, you change rulers, you change kings. You change your bureaucratic kings. Oh, let's fire that guy. But that doesn't. Then number two steps up. There's another one. So you do have to cut the head off the snake. You do have to remove the leaders, but that's not enough. You have to break the system.
Right.
I know that's a bunch of Marxist language,
Well,
but it's true
but
regardless of
now
what you're doing.
it's not even a physical thing. It's an ideological I mean, I'm sure it's always been to some certain extent, but now because of the way that we share information, some of these things have been exacerbated with
Yeah.
the internet and how radicalized people are getting in these ways. It's so easy. I mean, you have all these quote unquote progressive people, the liberal, the left, whatever, pushing, calling people murderers because they didn't want to get the forced,
Injections.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Which
with
violates the Nuremberg Code, right?
people that you would never expect it to, but they fell into the fear. And again, it's like it's easy to get upset and angry and go at somebody, but we just have to recognize that that's going to be always a constant. There's always going to be a constant of somebody being lied to and being angry because of those lies and being hurt because of those lies. And we're always going to have to find new ways and clever ways to address those things, which is again why Emerald Party US is forming. That's why we're doing this.
Well, we have to. There isn't going to be a Democratic Party soon,
No.
and we've been saying that for quite a while. We've been pointing out these gaps that are moral gaps in policy. For example, of fighting for bodily autonomy and being able to make your own decisions and being consistent about that, and also the kind of rubric of independent politics that we're not left or right but forward. That Petra Kelly kind of inspirational founding in the Green Party years and years ago. We've noticed that the Green Party's just been mapping off of whatever for the most part, what the Democratic Party does and is speaking to the Democratic Party. We're not necessarily doing that, and we don't think that party is losing 2% a year, and a populist like Trump scoops them up, and some of them become independent. And now there's more
Yeah.
independents than there are in either party. I haven't checked it recently, but to the independents rule this country, and so auditing the government is that's independent politics. That's good governance,
But
right?
the thing is about being independent is that when you acknowledge, okay, hey, Doge, the idea, the principle of Doge, you don't have to care for the characters, obviously it plays again, it plays into whether or not things are legit or are being done right. But that's why we need transparency.
Yeah, we
Um,
need to put the intelligence agencies on a leash for real, so that it doesn't matter what the next president, who it is.
well, but
Can we
that
pull
was
up the Trump just disabled the gray zone? I put it in the chat. That article, because I think this is a hugely important article, and they do really good analysis. Aaron and Max, I think, put this together. And it's Trump executive order. Did Trump just disable the CIA's regime change network? Let's show people that if we could, because I mean that to me is by dissolving USAID. Don't take our word for it. Look at people who work with other independent journalists who see the gaslighting and destruction of democracy caused by our intelligence agencies. Yeah, I think everybody should take a look. Kit Clarenberg did this, um, and it's gotten even hotter. But they knew what was going on. Money being laundered through Ukraine, and I think that's the end of the Democratic Party right there. Because a lot of these elites, they were paying people. Maybe they were recruiting people from Ukraine to come over and fight
well, the
stupid
thing
stuff.
all it's going to be is just a new name, a new brand, a new face, some way, because they have to make it look like it's done with, so they can have their phoenix, whatever, rise or whatever,
But who's
pretend
going to
to.
do it? These people are some
Oh,
of
well,
them might
I'm
face
not. I,
prosecution.
I mean,
A lot of them.
I don't know. I don't know, but that's the game, right?
Yeah.
That's the idea is building up trust in someone and then having them sheepdog and lead people to be distracted.
So it's the policies that we're concerned with. We're not tied to people, and That's what kind of. I think we ought to save the who decides on the Israeli lobby and what's going on at Columbia University and Israel
Yeah.
for broader discussion. Christine Shaheen Wood was hoping to join us today, and we could share that and do that with her as that develops next time if you want. Last thoughts, Chad. Anything else you want to show us? What's that? The
Um,
order. Yeah, senior USAID leaders.
I think that's good. I think we covered quite a bit here.
Yeah,
Um,
I find it interesting that in that what you just put up that the purge was illegal, that firing people, the bureaucracy by the president was illegal, right? How dare you? And I should just say the White House is being bombarded by lawsuits from the lawfare of the Democratic Party to just sue them until so they're abusing the court system. I think it's not what it's for. This is not for your partisan politics.
well, I
It's
mean, it's
for legitimate
that's
cases.
the
They're not.
that right. It is what it's for, but that's not what it should be for. Let me say that. Like I almost feel like it's there's a secret language, there's a secret conversation going on because they're speaking the legalese, and that's what most of our politicians and people that are running the country, they've got their law degree. So there's a
Ownership of they're the managers.
yeah, but
Yeah.
there's a way that you maneuver when you know uh, the legal lines, the legal ways things are being. And
Okay.
well, I
Yeah.
mean, but again, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter as long as you have people in play that can take care of you or fix things or whatnot. Like it's just a messed up system. Like
It makes me sick to contemplate it, even just what you're
yeah,
telling me. It's really, it does.
I'm
Maybe
going
it's
down
just
a
the
rabbit
Boy
hole.
Scout in me that doesn't like but absolutely, this has to change. Any last thoughts?
That's what we hear. We're updating and revamping everything, getting everything going. So make sure you share, like, subscribe, tell your friends.
Forward our
Tell
song. We need a
your,
name for our song. We didn't come up with that. Maybe people could help us come up
yeah,
with a name.
let us know what you think about that song.
Can we play it
Um,
again for maybe people that missed it earlier? Because it's so good.
um, I have to download it.
We're putting Chad to the task here, to the
I
work.
know.
You know, let's go. Um, yeah, so we would appreciate donations for $5, and that keeps us rolling here. We don't take salary or anything like that, and we're looking to build a um, network of activists that are committed to independent politics, that are committed to the right culture of putting the policy before the person, being in good faith conversations, and understanding the mechanisms of who decides, as really how politics is characterized. Ask that question, and we'd like to build an organizing culture. We feel that certainly not the Democratic Party, although they do organize well, um, up until recently, until they got their butts beat, but the Green Party has got the wheels coming off, aren't able to organize because they're mimicking somebody else and have lost their identity, can't have conversations without abusing identity politics. So
Well,
we
that's what
ask
it's
that
all.
you pop some $5 our way. You can go to our website and make a donation for more, and stick it to the Uniparty or the Deep State. And we need more than one party. There might be just one party, major party, after Trump gets done with the Democratic Party. So we don't just want MAGA in the world. MAGA can use, whether doing good things or bad things, need some accountability from. That's how our system works. So and we hope we see more from Doge. Doge.gov is where you check on it, where you can read it. They post it, and they also post it on Twitter. Twitter's a lot wilder, but they have a government page that they update daily. How's it going? Got anything? It's working on it.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah, of
I
course.
could I could talk about another one while we're coming. And we meant, just we did mention that we feel that the left has abandoned true liberalism and true progressivism. that it's a very cynical tool being used to use these tropes of the left and make them extreme, and they're just being misused by intelligence agencies, to be honest, who have presences in corporate media, who have presences in these parties, and obviously are in control of a lot of money. There it is.
Shall we?
We shall. We shall. Thanks a lot. Take us out. Thanks a lot. Take us out.
Department of Government Efficiency, D-shit, there's an agency that's spending with a budget 60 mil, handing out foreign grants like they're going for the kill. The Inter-American Foundation are cut down to one, just a single employee, and their spending spree is done. Dodge! Watch them waste away your hard-earned dollars flying where nobody's looking anyway. Dodge! Getting things in check, stopping all that money from becoming a financial wreck. $900,000 for alpaca farms in Peru. They've raised them there for centuries. What were they thinking to do? 364 grand for recyclers in Bolivia, and 800,000 more for gardens in the jungle. Can you believe ya? 323,000 to understand Venezuela, 731 grand for mushrooms and for Keys Life Funds in Guatemala, no less, where nobody's looking. 677,000 for fruit and jam, what a sin. Artisanal salt in Ecuador, almost $500,000 gone. 39,000 for beekeeping while our own bees struggle on. Your money, my money, gone without a trace. Down the drain overseas at an alarming pace. Dodge, what an end to this. Your tax dollars disappearing in a foreign money abyss. Dodge, getting things in line. How can they waste some money? Now it's recovery time, yes.